of Computer Society of India, Student Branch DDO. I, Deep Patel, President of CSA DDO.
And I am Namsuk John, Management Executive of CS Attitude. We welcome you all to today's session. Before we start the session, ensure you have good internet connection. Also, if you have any questions during the session, please type them into the chat section. We will have time for the same at the end. I would request all of you to maintain silence and decorum throughout the session. Any kind of unwanted nuisance will lead to consequences. If you face any voice lag, then do let us know in the chat section. So without taking much of your time, let us begin. In this plot, we have posted events every weekend and invite personalities who have achieved something extraordinary from once being at the same stage as us all. In the last episode of our event, we have with us Dhaval Patel sir, who is a software engineer at Bloomberg and a CS graduate from 2003. He is also a YouTuber with more than 400k subscribers on his channel Code Basics. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Yes, sir, we are really very fortunate to have you at our event. So, can you tell us about your 4 years journey at DDO?
Oh, my 4 years at DDU were my golden years, actually. We still remember those days. I was in California visiting my friend Yatish Patel, who was also with me in DDIT. He's a manager at Apple headquarters right now in Apple Pay division. And just last week we were talking about our DDIT days. So at that time, it used to call, by the way, DDIT. Now I think it's DDU. But the things at that time were quite different. Right now, with internet, you have access of so many resources. Remember when I joined, like my first day at DDU, they took us in a computer lab, and that was a time when I touched the computer physically for the first time in my life. Nowadays, kids, like, they get access to computers from their early childhood, but I was fascinated, by that experience of touching a keyboard. And then we had a lot of fun during those 4 years. Of course, a lot of exams. So it was kind of, DDU is one of the universities which is very disciplined. Because when you enter any university, generally there are things like ragging and stuff. But in DDU, everyone was so disciplined. Our seniors were very helpful. So that way, the whole experience was pretty great. We learned a lot of things. CKB sir, of course, Charger sir used to teach us microprocessor, and there were many amazing faculties. Other than the computer science learning, I think the things which I learned most in my DDU days is uh, I made friends. We built like relationships, and those friends are kind of the friends that you want to have relationship for your entire life. When you start working in any company, you make friends there as well, but your college friends are totally different. It's so I think college days are the days where you build great relationships. You participate in a lot of extracurricular activities. We used to have culture days, a lot of sports activities. So it was a lot of fun, actually. I thoroughly enjoyed that time period.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting journey. So the initial step is always difficult. So can you share your experience on how you landed your first job and how was it to enter the industry for the first time?
When I graduated in 2003, there were not many IT jobs. TCS came for a campus recruitment, and they hired only two people. Our computer class was 60 people, and IT was another 60 people. So getting job at that time was much difficult. Right now, I have heard TCS, Infosys come, they hire like more than 100. That wasn't the case in my time. So since there were not many jobs, I taught as a lecturer in Changa for I think 1 month, and then I got a referral by CKV sir in one of the companies in Ahmedabad. It's called Systems Plus. So I went there with my resume, and things were quite different actually. There at that time, you print your resume and you literally go to the companies, say, "Oh, do you have a job?" Because there is no easy internet. I mean, even if you have to access email at that time, accessing email was a big deal. There were no job portals. I think there were many, maybe one or two, but if you're looking for a job, usually you get a referral. If someone is working in the company, they will call you. You go with your resume, and we had many friends who would take a printout of like 10 or 15 copies of the resume. They will go to Ahmedabad or Vadodara, they will visit different companies and, literally hand out their resumes. Doesn't matter if they have requirement or not. So System Plus was a company which was working on handheld applications. So there were handheld devices before the smartphone era. So I went there, they interviewed me, and in the evening they gave me a job. I still remember my initial salary was 6,000 rupees a month, and I was so happy. It was like my happiness was through the roofs. Then I worked in that company for about 2 years. So we were developing embedded systems application for that handheld device in Visual C++. In that time, C++ and Java were the prominent languages, and there were no high-level languages. JavaScript was there, but the mainstream software development applications were Visual C++, Visual Basic, Java, things like that. And the environment at that time was very difficult. Like difficult in terms of there are no resources. Basically, internet wasn't there. Internet was there, but there was no internet speed wasn't that great. People didn't have their own laptops. So if you have to learn things, you learn it from your colleagues. You ask thoughtful questions if you are facing problems in your job. Luckily, I had a couple of my DDIT friends working in the same team. So it was a team of 5 people, and 4 out of 5 were my friends from the same class. So it was a lot of fun. I felt like as if we are still in college and doing a college project together. But of course, we are working in a company, so there was a lot of like learning experience. So yeah, initially the difficulty that you face is academic life and corporate life is quite different. Um, in academic life, when you are building projects, you are building projects on a small data set. In corporate, you have to think about scalability, user experience, performance, usability. All these things are something that you don't quite address well when you are in academics. So that there was a big learning curve for sure. We face the difficulties, but as long as you have good mentors and as long as you know principles of good communication, I think you should be fine.
Yeah, that was really very insightful, sir. Sir, in your opinion, should one prefer moving to US for seeking better job opportunities, regardless of strict visa regulations?
So first of all, I think there is some misinformation in the media. People say there are strict visa restrictions, but if you come to US, they are not as strict as you think they are. US still remains a land of opportunity. There is a lot of innovation happening here, so many opportunities in this country. So coming to US is definitely a good idea. I don't think you should worry about visa restriction at all, because being a STEM student, you get 3 attempts for your H1, and in those 3 attempts you will most likely get your visa stamp. But let's say in worst case you don't get your visa. Well, on your OPT you can still stay for 3 years. You can easily cover the cost of all your education in first year of doing your job itself. So then you have 2 years, you can save a good deal of money. And even if you return back, India again has so many companies, you are going to get a job for sure. You stayed in US for 5 years, you would have a great communication, you know the culture here. Many companies in India are working for US clients. That experience of just being here is going to be immensely useful. So personally, I don't see any downside of moving to US in terms of visa restriction. Visa restriction is something I would say just don't even think about it. I think there is just unnecessary, like so much misinformation that is going on in the media, and they're talking about, visa restrictions and US government being kind of restrictive, conservative, but that's really not the case. However, when you are coming to US, you need to consider your social situation. I've seen families where, let's say, you are the only child of your parent and you want to stay with your parents. Now people say, okay, we'll go to US, stay there for 5 years, earn money, and come back. But 99.99% that's not going to happen. Trust me. Things are so good here that, and it's not about things like being good or bad. It's just that you set in your life, the lifestyle is very different. And once you are set in that lifestyle, once you have kids, family, it's kind of hard to make a move. Now I know people have made a move. I have two of my friends who stayed in US for 10 years. They are back in India for many years. They're settled. People do that. But that percentage is very, very low. So if your social situation is such that you're thinking of staying in uh, India for a long term, I would advise not coming to US at all, because India also has so many job opportunities. After pandemic, there are so many companies which are even offering remote work from home. For example, my own company. So I started a company called Atlic Technologies with my brother, and we come for campus recruitment in DDIT as well. We have successfully hired so many DDIT graduates in our company. It is based in Vadodara, and we have we are also providing this flexibility that you can work from anywhere. So let's say if you are from Rajkot, Surat, anywhere, if you want to permanently work from home, you can work for us. So things are quite different in today's world, and you get a lot of like good salary. You get a lot of flexibility. You can stay with your family. You can stay in your own little town, where you have friends and your memories. So staying in India is equally good option. Another reason that you need to consider before you move to US is, do you have any entrepreneurship dreams? The whole H1 visa is very, very restrictive. It doesn't allow you to do any entrepreneurship. Basically, you can't start your business. And before you get your green card, in years. So it will take at least, after you get your first H1B, it will take at least 10 years before you get a green card. And let's say you come to US at 20 and you're already 30, or if you're lucky, you'll get it at 30. Otherwise, it might be even 35. And at 35, if you want to start a business, things are very different, when you're 20 versus when you're 30. So if you have any entrepreneurship dream, do not come to US. US will not, this country will not allow you to do business and entrepreneurship. You will be just doing a job in some company. And for some people, this might be okay. But for some other people who have bigger dreams, I think staying in India is much more wiser.
Well, I quite agree with your views on that. So, at the time of your graduation, you just mentioned that the era of computer science has just begun. So, can you share your journey on how you got a job at NVIDIA?
Yes, so I worked in System Plus for 2 years, and then uh, many of my friends started moving to Pune because Pune had, IT revolution had begun at that time. This was in 2005. Many big companies were setting up their office. Big companies like Symantec, Microsoft, Nvidia, they were setting up their office. So my two of my friends from DDIT got a job in a company called PaceSoft, which was doing some embedded software development. So I interviewed in that company, and there I got a job. Now that company was acquired by Nvidia. So Nvidia was setting up a new office in Pune, and they acquired the whole company. We were like 80 people. So that's how I got into Nvidia.
Yes, sir, that was quite interesting to know, sir. Also, initially you started as a software engineer, but currently you are working on data engineering part at Bloomberg. So, can you brief out on how you learned data engineering at the initial stages and how you made a transition in the field?
So first of all, when you're in when you're in academics, when you look at things from outside perspective, you hear all these fancy titles, right? Software engineer, data scientist, data engineer. But when you actually start working for a company, you will realize that you have kind of a mixed role. So my role is kind of, I'm like 40% software engineer, 30% maybe data engineer, and 30% data scientist. So I have a very mixed role. And this will be the situation no matter what company you work for. Bloomberg is a big company. Google, Facebook, I have so many friends in these big firms. And in every company that you go to, many times you will be wearing multiple hats. So I was hired in Bloomberg as a software engineer. Bloomberg is a data company, a lot of financial data. We do a lot of financial data analytics. So then you start building financial application uh, on top of this huge volume of financial data. So you automatically evolve yourself into that data engineering role. So my official title is right now still software engineer, but I consider myself, as I said, like data engineer as well, because we deal with a humongous volume of data. We apply a lot of cool data engineering techniques, like financial data extraction. We do outlier removal, like, for example, things like the modified z-score, that's like a simple outlier removal technique. So we employ some statistical methods and some heuristical software engineering principles to kind of clean the data, to massage it, to build analytics on top of it. So if you want to pursue a career in data science, or want to be a data scientist, you need to join a company that deals with a huge volume of data. Basically, there are some companies which are like data companies. Their main bread and butter is data. For example, Bloomberg is a data company. So if you join such a company, even as a software engineer or some other role, you will be dealing with data because data is your core business. And then you can easily evolve into the role that you want.
That is quite fascinating. There is a general belief that a degree is required for data science job. So, is there any alternative path to enter the field of data science other than a master's degree?
So first of all, data science master is a very new thing. Data scientist as a career is very, very new thing. I think universities have started doing data science master program just in past 3 or 4 years. But I think 5 years back, no university had this even data science master, 5 or 7 years back. So first of all, data science masters is not needed. We are entering into an era where even without any degree, you can still get a job. For example, if you want to go to Google doesn't require you to have even a college degree. You could be 10th grade pass, you learn coding on your own. You are doing good on Stack Overflow, or contributing to open source. Google will hire you. The trend is changing very fast. So the importance of degrees is diminishing day by day. I think what matters is your practical skills, what like how smart you are, and the other thing that matters is your soft skills. Many times people don't focus on soft skills. I think soft skills, uh, I would say, in next 5 years will continue to matter more and more. So if you are someone who is just focusing on coding, like just reading, getting marks, I think you're making a big mistake. You have to focus on networking, communication, negotiation. These are all amazing skills that you can learn and you can grow in your career. And these skills are equally important in a data science career as well. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I made a video on what are the three most important skills that you need in order to become a good data scientist. And those three skills, none of the skills are technical skills. Those three skills are all soft skills.
That was really very insightful to know, sir. Further, how important it is for recent graduate to have a data science experience. Like, if not a proper internship, then do companies expect to have some kind of projects done earlier by themselves?
Yes. So if you are looking for a data science job in your resume, you need to have good 2 or 3 data science projects. Now, I talk about data science project a lot on my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I have done, I think, 2 to 3 projects, end-to-end projects for data analyst role, and then 3 end-to-end projects for data science or machine learning engineer role. I recently did a project on potato disease classification where I built a mobile app. So, it was an end-to-end project. So you can take that mobile app, give it to farmers in your nearby villages, and they can take a picture of a potato plant, and using deep learning, it will tell you whether the plant has disease or not. So what you can do is you can get project ideas from internet and then customize it for and give it your own unique flavor. For example, I did a project on uh, sports celebrity image classification, where you take the image of Virat Kohli, Maria Sarapova, and you classify who is that person. Now you can take that project as a reference and maybe build a project to classify images of your family members or maybe classify images of politicians or movie stars. When you give your own unique flavor, I think you have to go through an entire process like in data science, which is data collection, data cleaning, pre-processing, feature extraction, model building, deployment, the whole pipeline. So I would suggest uh, either you refer to my channel or some other resources and get idea on projects and then make your own projects by doing variation, or go to nearby NGO, or if you have a uncle who has a clinic or who is a lawyer, and if they're using a software, if someone is using a software, there will be a database, and whenever there is data, there is data science. So maybe you go to them and you can say, hey, you have a software. Maybe your relative has a grocery store and they're using some very simple software for inventory management. Now on that software, you can use Power BI or Tableau and start building basic analytics dashboard. So when you do that, you get a real life project experience. It's not a dummy project anymore. So you can basically be creative and get a lot of different ideas by contacting to NGO, by participating on Kaggle, by making friends on Discord. For example, my channel, we have a Discord server which has more than 11,000 people, and we have partner and group finder channel where you can find project buddies. So I think doing projects in a group is always useful. So make a group and try to do some unique projects. I see a lot of resumes where the data science project is uh, just Titanic data set classification. I think those kind of projects are not very good, I would say. So try to build a project which is unique, and when an employer looks at it, they would be like, okay, this is a unique project. They have given a lot of thought and work on this, and you will likely get an interview call.
Thank you for sharing. This will be helpful for everyone, I guess. Sir, you have been teaching for many years now, so you can share some difficulties that an individual faces while learning machine learning and also how to tackle them.
Yes. So first of all, machine learning is hard. Let's accept the fact. It's not like building a website. Machine learning requires good understanding of mathematics and statistics. You need to be good in coding. You need to know a framework, either scikit-learn or, if you're doing deep learning, PyTorch or TensorFlow. On top of that, you need to know a lot of feature extraction techniques, data cleaning, pandas. You need to have a good understanding of domain. Business understanding is and communication skills are equally important for a machine learning engineer. So it's quite demanding, to be honest, and that is the reason machine learning engineers get paid. Like if you come to US, machine learning engineers make more money than a surgeon in a hospital. In previous time, an anesthesiologist or a surgeon, heart surgeon would be making the most money. Now that is replaced by machine learning engineers. For example, if you are working at Google or a Facebook as a machine learning engineer with, let's say, 4 or 5 years experience, you can make $700,000 to $800,000. There are machine learning engineers who make up to $1 million a year. So if you convert it to Indian rupees, it will be like 7 to 8 crore rupees a year. They get paid so high for a reason. So I'm reading this book right now, Practical Statistics for Data Scientists. You need to read a lot, do a lot of hard work. So when you start your machine learning journey, the confusion that arises is there's so much information, so many things to learn. Where do I start? Sometimes you get lost almost. So I would say go with like slow and steady approach. Take one thing at a time. Do not bother. Just tell to yourself that this journey is going to take good 1 year. But tackle, one thing at a time. When I was learning machine learning myself, I myself went through a lot of difficulties because the teaching on internet, all the courses, they make things appear so hard. And that was the reason I started teaching machine learning on my own channel. I'm like, I don't want other people to go through the same difficulty. And that is the reason my machine learning, if you go to YouTube and do machine learning tutorial Python, you'll probably find my videos in like first 3 or 5 search results. And the reason is I have given the teaching in a way that even a high school student can understand it easily. So you start with that playlist, and then as in when you come through some mathematical concept, let's say you are going through my gradient descent tutorial. Gradient descent requires you to have understanding of derivatives. So what you should do is, let's say this is your gradient descent learning path. You are learning gradient descent. Here I mention derivative. Now you should take a pause here and make almost like a detour, You are making a detour, going to other resources, learning, okay, what is derivative? What is calculus? Let's learn some concepts around that. Now, this might take maybe 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, you will feel like, oh, I did not finish learning even gradient descent. But no, in that journey, you learned quite a bit of calculus now. So always take a pause, take a detour, clarify your math and statistics concepts, come back, again continue your journey. Then let's say now you hear this term log normal distribution. You don't know what the heck is log normal distribution. You again take a pause, make a detour, go to math and whatever resources, buy some math book, or there is a channel called 3 Blue 1 Brown. The guy teaches math in a very amazing way. There's another website called mathisfun.com. So refer to those resources, learn your math, come back, again continue your journey. It is going to take time, but have patience, do not give up, because the reward is very, very high.
Yeah, sir, absolutely. And I'm sure that your guidance will help our attendees of the event. Also, sir, as you mentioned about the soft skills that are really important. So, can you just point out some of the soft skills that are required in the industry and how one can develop them?
Okay, so the biggest soft skill is communication. People don't know how to communicate. And when I'm saying communication, I don't mean how good you are in English. English is just a language. Even if I talk, even if I ask you to communicate in Gujarati, in Gujarati language there are good communicators and there are bad communicators. So there is this book. Um, so there is this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that book is one of my favorite. Like my two favorite books are Magic of Thinking Big and How to Win Friends and Influence People. I personally feel that if you read those two books and if you follow the principles which are stated in those two books, I think you will fly like a rocket in your career. So if you're focusing too much in reading like Python, Java, technical, I would say stop all of that and go read these two books first. Because they talk about, especially How to Win Friends book, talk about how to communicate effectively with people, you know, how do you make friends, how do you influence people. And these skills are going to be very crucial when you start working in the industry. The other important skill is negotiation. You're always negotiating. Doesn't matter. You're a student, or you're in your family, you're in workplace. So those negotiation skills you can develop. There is another book called Getting to Yes. So Getting to Yes book has stated some of the, you know, negotiation strategies in a very effective way. So you read these books, 2 page a day, and then I try to apply the principles in this book in your real life. Participation in extracurricular activities and sports is again very, very important. Because when you're playing sports, let's say you are participating in volleyball, it's not just you are having fun, you are building some concrete soft skills which will be useful in your career. I have seen people, if you look at some of the successful entrepreneurs, like for example, Jensen Huang, who is the founder of Nvidia company, he himself was a table tennis champion. Those man big entrepreneurs, uh, in their college days, they were very good in sports. Because when you're good in sports, you know how to stay ahead in the competition. You know how to coordinate with your team. So you have learned these raw skills which are required when you go in the industry and start working there. Business in a way is sort of like a game, you have a competition, you have a team, you are trying to win the race. So there is no when you look at the raw qualities which are required, there is not much difference between sports and running a business or maybe working as an employee. So people focus too much on getting marks that they don't go out and play volleyball or cricket. I think you should. So by even right now, Deep and Namsuk, right? You are kind of coordinating this particular event. So there also you are learning some skills. You are asking question like how to moderate an interview, how to ask meaningful question, how to make sure there is a discipline. And you want to, right now there are 82 people. You want to make sure people are attentive at the same time the interview goes smoothly. So when you volunteer more and more for such activities, you are building those important skills. And you will realize these skills will help you a lot in the industry. Helping others is also very important. I think one thing that I realized, whatever little success I got in my professional career, is because of my nature of helping others. And when I help others, I don't maintain a scorecard. It's not like, you know, मैंने मेरे दोस्त को अभी पिज्जा खिलाया वो मेरे को खिलाता है कि नहीं आई विल वेट फॉर दैट so don't maintain a scorecard, just freely help people, because when you help, it is the law of reciprocity always works. It's going to come back to you in one form or the other.
Sure, sir. Soft skills are really important. So many individuals tend to stick to one technology after learning it. So what should be the approach in the world of this changing technologies?
Focus on fundamentals, don't focus on language. You learn Python, Java, C++. See, the syntax is different, but the fundamentals, what are the fundamentals? Well, data structures, for example, algorithms. All the languages have trees, hash maps. All the languages use like binary search or quick sort. So focusing on data structure algorithm is very important. Focusing on computer science principle. How does memory management work, inside your computer? What are the principles of scalability? So as long as you focus on fundamentals, learning syntax is just Googling it. You come to my company, you see many accomplished engineers. No one remembers the syntax. I was interviewing one person for a data analyst role in my company, Atlic Technologies in Vadodara. And, when I was interviewing that person, I literally told him, you can Google it, I don't care. Just Google for the syntax. So I asked him to write some code in Pandas. And I literally told him, Google it, fine. I am interested in your approach, your problem solving skills. So that's problem solving. How does HashMap work internally? Algorithms, scalability. So fundamentals are very important. Syntax doesn't matter. Many companies will say, okay, just Google it. I don't care. I'm not judging you based on how good you are in memorizing the syntax.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you for your valuable advice, and we will definitely try to implement that. Also, can you differentiate between different roles like data engineer, data scientist, and ML engineers on the basis of the work they do?
Yes, so I have made a video on that. So I would suggest go to YouTube and search for code basics, data analyst. If you want to search for my video, just put code basics in the front and search for code basic data analyst versus data engineer versus data scientist. You'll find that video. I give a very nice example of some real life industry use case. So I would suggest, in the interest of time, since I have given a detailed example on the YouTube video, maybe you can go there and just watch it.
Sure, sir. We will definitely watch it. Sir, you are currently teaching data science on YouTube. So can you tell us what ignited you to make this channel?
Yes, so sure. So I started this channel 4 years back, and at that time I had a great career at Bloomberg. I was settled here in US, earning good money, having good life. But destiny throws a curveball at you, and I was diagnosed with an incurable immune disease called ulcerative colitis, and there's no cure. I visited maybe 10 different colon surgeons at the time, and everyone said there is no cure for this disease, and I was losing a lot of weight. I was having a lot of bleeding actually in my colon, and I was kind of getting into a state of almost like a depression. I was very sad that I'm young, I have my good lifestyle, and still this thing happened to me. You know, I lost my weight actually. I was like 77 kg weight, and I became 49 kg. So I became like almost half. So then um, I wasn't sure. I mean, like how long will I live? So you kind of face that life and death situation. So at that time, I thought maybe I should, um, I should just do something where I can help people and create an impact. And since I was having health condition, I was not able to go out much. So I thought maybe YouTube is probably the best because I can teach. My father was a teacher. He's from a small town, Narsanda, the Nusanda town, near to Uttarsanda, where you guys probably go to eat that ice cream. So there's another village called Narsanda. So my family still lives there. So my father was a teacher there. So I had some uh, teachers in my family, and I always admired teaching. So I thought, okay, maybe let me start teaching on YouTube. So that's how I started. And then I was uploading videos so that I can keep my brain engaged in some activity. So I'm not thinking about my health condition all the time. Because if you are free, if you are going through the problem, your mind just thinks about that problem all the time. So it was actually to help me with my health condition. But eventually, what happened was people started liking my teaching style. I started receiving a lot of comments and started improving. I improved my narration, I improved my video editing, things like that. Eventually, now I'm at a stage where more than 410,000 subscribers. It's one of the popular channels in on YouTube for data science. I'm having great partnerships now with NVIDIA and Google. NVIDIA sends me their latest hardware. Recently, they sent me their AI supercomputer for me to play with. Then I'm in direct contact with TensorFlow team at Google. So I'm having a meeting with the TensorFlow JS team actually in a coming few weeks. So they try to, since I have an influence in the data science space, uh, my partnership with these companies help me understand and learn the new and greatest and latest things which are coming out in the market. And then I make videos, I try to spread the news. So it kind of helps those companies as well, and it kind of helps me as well because I get access to the cutting edge information and cutting edge tools which are there in the AI industry. So that was a little story how I started my YouTube channel. Now I'm at a stage where I'm doing a part I made my job part time actually, so I work only 3 days. Remaining days, I pursue my hobbies and um, I just try to create impact.
Yes, that was really very inspiring. Also, guys, do check out the sir's YouTube channel. We have the link for the same in the chat section. Also, sir, you are being a part-time YouTuber with your 9 to 5 job, so it might be hard for you to manage your time. So similarly, many students face this type of situation in managing between their college studies and external skill development. So how one should manage their time efficiently?
Biggest tip is if you manage this, how to deal with this device. This is the biggest piece of distraction in today's life. I go to restaurants. I go to public gatherings, social events. People are busy in the stupid mobile phone all the time. You need to control your urge on how much time you're spending on this device. If you know that art, things can become really easy for you. So I recently went part time, but up till now, I was running YouTube channel with my busy 9 to 6 job, 5 days. I went part time only in last 6 months, but I've been doing YouTube for past 4 years. So some of the time management skills that I will suggest is number one, of course, cell phone is a thing. It's like a knife. Knife is a good tool if you use it wisely. But if you try to cut your hand with a knife, it can be dangerous. So, advice I would give is uh, you need to have time in a day where you switch off your phone completely, or maybe put it in aeroplane mode. Let's say you are studying for your exam. Turn off your phone for next 5 years. You say, okay, 3 to 5, this is my study time. Switch off your phone. If you switch off your phone, you will do yourself a big favor. Another thing is persistence. See, now if we live in a time where one day you will think, oh, I want to learn data science. Second day you would think, no, I want to learn AWS, like cloud. Third day you will think, oh, I should be doing maybe cybersecurity. So there are so many options and choices that it's easy to get distracted. So if you pick one thing, just stay on that. Do not give up. Let it take time, 6 months, 1 year. Just keep on doing small baby steps. See, small baby steps matter. So when I did my YouTube channel, you're right. It's a lot of work, like a lot of editing. How do I manage my time? Well, first of all, I manage my phone really well. It's like I'm not the slave of this phone. The phone is my slave. I decide when I want to use. This phone doesn't decide, okay, when I should be using it. So, uh, and it's not just phone, by the way. It's your computer. On computer, you might be studying, and then you want to go to Facebook. You want to read news. You want to do, go to like 5 different places. And by the time you come back, you have already spent 2 hours. So, one thing I would say is do not waste your time on news. Stop watching news channels like total garbage. Stop reading newspapers. I read newspaper maybe in a week. I read newspaper only once or twice. I'm talking about like printed as well as online. I don't read news at all. Like recently, I think they changed Gujarat Chief Minister, right? Now it's not Mr. Rupani. It's someone else.
Yes, someone else.
Okay, I did not know. Today I just read the news. When did this happen? I think many days back.
Yeah, some days back.
Some days
one
back,
week
right?
back. 1 week back. Yeah.
1 week back. So I read news only once in a week. News reading, then cricket. You watch so much. You spend so much time watching IPL. Those guys are making money. Let me tell you that. Cricket has become a big business. Okay, there is a lot of match fixing going on. And you're spending your entire weekend. So first of all, you spend 4 hours watching a match. Then you spend another 3 hours discussing with your friends on how Bumrah should have bowled in a fifth over. Right? It's a huge waste of your time. So focus on your own journey. Focus on how you can create impact. Okay, I read news about some project, someone. So what? It doesn't make much difference in my life. How can I make difference in my life? How can I create impact in my surrounding? So now, so by now not watching news, I saved a lot of time. By avoiding distraction on mobile phone, I saved a lot of time. By not going to social events, certain social events you don't need to attend. your distant cousin's marriage. Now you are in Ahmedabad, they are saying, oh, you need to go to Rajkot. Why? You barely know the person. You're spending your two important precious days. My own health journey made me very much time conscious, It's like if someone wastes my half an hour, I feel like someone has taken $1,000 from my pocket. You see my point? Your time is very, very valuable. So you should try to put some monetary value on time. And this is just for fun. Just think that your 1 hour is equal to 50,000 rupees. Now someone comes to you and talks about all kind of BS. You should feel literally like that person has taken 50,000 rupees from you. He has stolen that money from you. Once you develop that kind of time consciousness in your brain, you will be able to do a lot of things in your life. Like right now, I manage a company. My brother is there in Baroda, right? We have 60 people working for us right now. So I have a 60 people company. I run a YouTube channel. I have a busy job. I have a family. I do yoga. I go to gym. I play volleyball regularly. Every weekend, I play volleyball for 2 hours. I do a lot of reading myself. And some people ask me like, how do you do this? And I'm like, it's possible. You need to just develop that time consciousness, which I just talked about. Then another thing which is helping me a lot is spending time only in positive talk and only with positive people. You will see people, you get together and everyone is talking about traffic problem in Ahmedabad, or let's say why there is no cleanliness in Nadiad. Everyone is talking about negative things, but either accept that as a fact, or try to, if you cannot accept it, try to make a change. If you think Nadiad is dirty, go and start cleaning the street. If you are not cleaning the street, and if you are still nagging about it, you're not doing yourself a favor. So what I did in my last 10 years is, whoever talks negative, I get rid of that person from my life. I don't spend. So let's say 4 friends are talking about some topic, and if I feel they're talking about something negative, I just leave that conversation, period. I will go better, read some book or make a video on my YouTube channel. And then there is a saying that you are an average of 5 people that you spend most of your time with. So the people, my friends, my family, I have surrounded myself with extremely positive people. The kind of people who do not complain even if you put them in a most difficult situation. So you need to find those kind of folks, get yourself out in an environment which is extremely positive, and that positivity, that aura will bring a huge transformation. And that's something that has happened in my life, even with the limited time. It's not like I sleep only 5 hours. I sleep 8 hours, 9 hours. I never set an alarm in my phone. I wake up when my body says, okay, your sleep is over, and my body asks me to wake up. So, and despite that, I'm able to do 100 things in my life because I have decided to not, engage in not waste my time in useless activity. Another thing I do is, before pandemic, when I used to commute to work, I had this Audible app in my phone. So using Audible, it's basically audiobooks. So I will listen to audiobooks. So that way, half an hour going to office, half an hour coming back to office, I would be reading. It's my book reading time. So wherever I go, like if I have a social get together at my friend's home, what I do is Sometimes I will go with my computer, and if let's say other people are late and it takes maybe half an hour for them to reach the place, I will have my computer and I will be doing my work. Maybe I will comment, or I will help people on LinkedIn or YouTube. So wherever, let's say you're going to doctor's office and there is a line, and now you have to wait for half an hour. Always go with a book. So while you're waiting, you are reading the book. It's not like you're just doing nothing and wasting your time. So try to identify opportunities of using your spare time in a productive way, and basically that's really the secret of why I'm able to do a lot of things in my life.
Surely, sir, this will help us to manage our time productively. So, you have been on YouTube for more than 4 years. So, how has that impacted your life?
It has brought a humongous positive impact in my life. When I was not in YouTube, hardly 40 people knew me. Now being in YouTube, there are so many people who know me. I was in a park, I think last week, um, for some social occasion. And one guy comes to me and he's like, "Oh, are you code busy?" I mean, yes. And he wanted to take a selfie with me. And he called his wife, and the whole family took selfie with me. And I almost felt like I'm a celebrity, because they were watching my videos for a long time. So, and that's like a very good feeling. So, and the other impact it had was my communication has improved. I have become a better person overall. I want I want to even help more people. I have seen a huge impact on my business as well. My business as in that technologies, which is a software company in Vadodara. Uh, we are getting a lot of machine learning projects because of my YouTube influence. People are reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and they are saying, can you do this project? So we recently got some machine learning work. In our company, we are doing some data analytics, fraud detection type of work as well. So we have some cool, interesting projects going on in our company, Atlic Technologies. And I think my YouTube influence has helped me on that front.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is really very inspiring. Also, sir, I would like to know is if there is any app time for a startup for a college student, like one should go for a job and gain some experience, or one should start a startup directly after his graduation.
Uh, See, there are pros and cons of both the approaches. If you start directly after graduation, uh, one benefit is that, see, if you let's say you do job for 5 years, and then you are thinking, okay, after working in industry for 5 years, I will do my startup. The downside of that is, after 5 years working in the industry, you'll be married, you'll have responsibility, you might have bought a flat, your own home, you will have mortgage, and then it becomes difficult, you know, to do something on the side. My brother, who started Atlic Technologies, and I kind of helped him. And we both are the partner. We both are partners in that company right now. But my brother was very clear. He was like, okay, after graduation, I want to just do a business, because he was a business-minded person. So if you are someone who know for sure that you want to just do a business and you cannot work under someone, under someone's command, go do the startup. But I've seen so many people where they work in the industry, they get the corporate knowledge, they save some money, and they manage their finances in such a way that when they leave their job, the financial aspect doesn't impact them very much. People do proper investment and they save a lot of money, and they plan things in a way that, okay, I have worked in the industry for 5 years. I have enough money that I can survive for 2 years. So for those 2 years, they will have money to sustain their family and their business both, and they try something out. Now, if that venture works, good. Sometimes the venture doesn't work, and then they go back to the industry. So there are kind of both the ways. I mean, there is no clear answer to this question, but I would say it really depends on your personality, your situation. Sometimes people are uh, from a family, or they have a support system where, let's say their father is rich, and they will be like, okay, after graduation, you don't need to give money to the family, and I will fund your startup. So if your family is such, or maybe you have a brother, or you have some family system where people can help you monetarily in terms of setting up your business, then you should definitely go do the startup. Because when you're young, you're not married, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of energy, and you can really make a good progress.
It was really great to hear about your learnings. So now, summing up everything, would you like to share any word of final advice for all of us?
I would say you guys are very, very lucky. You are living in a world full of opportunities. Internet, thanks to Reliance Jio, now you can work from home, from your remote village. And India is a much more politically stable country. You look at our neighboring countries, like so much political turmoil. India has a very stable system. India is an amazing country. Um, so you should feel lucky that you are blessed to be born in such an amazing country, and which offers a lot of cultural values. You're studying in DDIT, you're in Gujarat, again, an awesome place, awesome university to be in. So you should first of all feel that you are very, very lucky and you have a lot of opportunities. And then you need to use those opportunities in a wise way. The thing that I mentioned about managing distractions in your life, um, going back to the basic roots, basically. Right now we live in an era where there is just so much show off on the social media. Everyone wants to just show off. So instead of getting into those glitters, uh, focusing on fundamental values, creating an impact in your life, uh, thinking about long-term career. One disturbing trend that I'm seeing, just because there are so many job opportunities, nowadays people change job every 6 months or a year just because of money. Recently, I was talking with someone. The guy is earning a lot of money even after 2 years experience, and he wants like 100% raise. And then when I said, no, we cannot afford that much, for my company in Vadodara, he said, no, I can work part time as well. So that person is fooling his employer. So he is working from home and doing two jobs. And both the employers doesn't know that this person is working in both the companies. So there are smart people, but horrible moral values. In my opinion, moral values are much more important than your skills. So do not ever compromise on your moral values, because that guy, by doing two jobs, maybe he will earn good money for a year or two, but he will have big issues in his life later on. So stick to your, like, be extremely honest, stick to your moral values, use your opportunities wisely, and think about long term. Don't think about short term. We hired Karan Grover from DDIT only. He is your junior. He's your senior, maybe 2 or 3 years senior than you guys. He joined our company, I think 2 years back. And Karan had so much discipline, so much values, and he showed the accountability that now we have made him a partner in our company. He's in management committee in our company right now. And if you have to learn anything from Karan, the thing that you learn is do not jump like a monkey from company A to B just because of money. Think about your long-term career goal. What do you want to do? And think about being a problem solver. Rather than getting married to a problem, get married to a solution. And that long term, you will see a humongous positive impact of that in your life.
So thank you very much for your valuable advice, sir. So this brings us to the end of the session. So we can now move towards the doubt session. If you have any doubt,
Mhm.
you can unmute yourself or write them in the chat section.
So there are a couple of questions which are being asked. I would like to answer them. So the first question, Herschel Tang, you were talking about US. Could you please tell us that how one can be able to go to without master? So Herschel, without masters coming to US is very, very difficult, to be honest. When I came to US back in time, in 2005, it was easy. But without masters is difficult, but it's not impossible. If I know one guy who participated on Kaggle and he built a very good rank on Kaggle, and he's in Mumbai and he got an offer from a company in San Francisco in US. So if you're an exceptional performer, let's say you have exceptional rank in Stack Overflow or Kaggle, and if you contact some US companies, maybe they can call you here for a job directly. But that portion is very, very low. So I think coming to master is probably the best way to come to US.
Okay,
So
sir. Thank
Preet
you, sir.
Mungra, cool. Preet Mungra, I have already put the name of the books in the chat. The Magic of Thinking Big and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Omi Kakade is asking the book for a startup and how to start an IT company. I don't have a specific book for your specific question, but there is this book called The Lean Startup by Eric Rice. And this book, I think, can be helpful to an extent. So I'll write the name of the book. Khush Manwar is asking, generally graduates are skeptical about going to data science or business. Can you share some light on that? So Khush, I didn't understand your question. What do you mean they're skeptical? Can you give some details on your question? I didn't quite understand your question. So I'm writing the name of the author of that book, How to Win Friends and Influence by Dale Carnegie. So Khush, whatever I understood. So first of all, don't become skeptical. Going to data science is not a rocket science. It's easy. You guys can do it. Now, if you have confusion between data scientist and business analyst, see, business analyst is more focused on business side. Business analysts rarely use any technical tool. So if you are a person who is more interested in communication, business, domain understanding, then go for business analyst. If you're more on technical side, then go for data analyst or data scientist role. And I have videos explaining the difference between data analyst and business analyst on my channel, and another video on data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer on my channel. So if you have any topic confusion, go to YouTube, first type code basics, then type the topic name. I have made videos on most of the questions that people usually ask me. Anything else?
There is one more doubt from Dishant, that when to apply for masters, like to go to directly from bachelor's or to have some experience of 1 2 years and then apply for this.
Very good question. Again, I think both options are equally valid. If you get 1 or 2 years of experience in India, see, the benefit here that you'll get is, first of all, you would have saved some money by doing that job. Second, when you come here, when you're done with your master and when you're looking for a job, that 2 years experience in India is going to be very useful in finding a job. So if I'm at your place, maybe I will work for 1 or 2 years and then I will go for masters. Anyway, see, when you're preparing for GRE and all that, to get a admission in a good university, you have to do some preparation. So while you're doing preparation, maybe do a job in some company.
I guess more
All right.
doubts.
Awesome.
Yes, I guess that's all for the doubt session. And so here we come to the end of today's session. I, on behalf of the entire CSI team, first of all spread my most sincere thanks to Dhaval sir, who agreed for the session and gave his valuable time from his busy schedule to grace this meeting and share his knowledge and experiences. Further, a big thank to Professor Siddharth sir for providing us the required support, guidance, and mentorship. Also, last but not the least, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the participants of today's meeting for making today's session successful. Also, we hope that the session was interesting and that it might have helped to solve your doubts. And we would like to end with a small request to fill up the feedback form, and the chat for the same is in the chat section. Uh, Also follow us on our Instagram handle and the Medium handle CSI_DDU to stay tuned for the upcoming updates. So here we officially end our series of events, Cheers on the Line, and we hope that you all have enjoyed our events. Have a great day. Thank you,
And one
sir.
last thing,
That was for
yeah, one
joining.
last thing I will mention is, if our company Athlete Technologies come for campus recruitment in DDIT, but if you want to generally follow, we have a LinkedIn page to follow that. We are always looking for a big talent. We are expanding our workforce. We have a lot of new positions open. So, I don't know which year you are in, but if you're looking for a job, Athlete Technologies again in Vadodara, it's my own company, and I mentor people personally in that company. I run training session and of course project management, client, whatever. So you'll get a chance to interact with me directly if you are working for this company. And if you have any seniors who are looking for jobs, we have very awesome, like a flexible culture in our organization. So if some of your seniors are looking for a job, definitely you can. So I will just quickly share my screen and show you our company's website. So atlic.com, that's our company. And we have all our portfolio company, life, culture, work, and careers. If you go to career page, we have a lot of openings. I mean, right now they are for experienced folks. So if you know any experienced folks who wants to work for this company, let us know. We have a lot of cool US based projects. Starting we're starting machine learning work as well in the company. So I'm pretty sure the learning in this company and growth opportunity is going to be very, very awesome.
Yes, surely. So thank you very much for your valuable time and have a great day, sir.
Thank